Hassan Piker and the co-founder of Code Pink have been subpoenaed. Things in the UK are getting worse, and the Democrats triple down on their shift towards communism as Mamdani calls for the seizure of private property. All that and more on Daytime. I am your host, Avery Daye. All right, we're going to start the clip with one of the most viral videos of Hassan Piker right now, where he's, well, let's just play it.
Is not great.
It's not great.
Okay. I mean, it's bullshit.
Is it?
But still not great that, you know, they're after your boy.
F-A-F-O. Hassan Piker is in the F-O phase. Federal officials have served subpoenas to Hassan Piker and Code Pink co-founder Susan Medina Benjamin as part of a wider investigation into whether U.S. organizations and leaders violated U.S. laws and sanctions in supporting Cuba's communist regime. So the investigation allegedly involves up to 40 U.S. participants tied to the Cuba convoy. It's a request for information. Now, background, if you don't know, Code Pink and others organized a trip to Cuba in March 2026 that Hassan Piker joined. They framed it as humanitarian aid in response to U.S. pressure on Cuba under the Trump administration. Because let's side with the communist government that starves their people and is in bed with Iranian proxy groups like Hezbollah over the American government. That's a great idea, a winning idea, a bunch of American-hating geniuses there. The trip was called Our America Convoy. And get this, while they were on their trip, Cuba experienced multiple nationwide blackouts because they're in an energy crisis, and millions of Cubans were left without power. But not the activists, not the champagne socialists. They stayed in 5-star hotels and had power. They met with communist officials. They streamed propaganda blaming America and Trump for Cuba's collapse, all under the disguise of aid.
I'm here in Havana, Cuba right now on a humanitarian aid mission. My goal here today is to bring awareness to what my government, the United States of America, has done to the Cuban population. One of the most ridiculous embargoes of all time that has only gotten more deadly as time has gone on.
Everything's always America's fault. Isn't it exhausting? And who the F were they aiding? It wasn't the people of Cuba without power. They were aiding the government. They were working with the government to blame Trump and Americans for people suffering in Cuba under communism, which is what they're trying to implement in the United States. So that's insane. And if you don't believe me that they were working with the government, why don't we just listen to Hassan Piker in his own words? And what I love so much about this is Hassan he just keeps telling on himself. There's not much investigation that needs to go on here because Hassan's just yapping about it on the internet.
I want to go to Cuba. Would you be down?
I fucking love Cuba.
Oh yeah, you'd be down?
Yeah, I filmed a documentary there once.
The Cuban government actually hit my contact from the embassy and told him that if the only thing stopping us from coming to Cuba was the consistent internet access, we can make it happen.
Yeah, Cuba is sick.
Wait,
the government reached out to you.
So yeah, of course. It's well, not reached out to me. There's there's a middleman there. Because I had a doctor from Cuba. Cuba does this thing called medical missions, and they've been doing it since I believe like the 70s, and it's incredibly successful. They have a massive, very robust like medical program because kind of they have to. Because they're under an incredible sanctions regime by the United States of America that the rest of the world thinks is abhorrent, except for America and Israel that keep consistently vetoing it over and over again.
It's like so exhausting. If they love these countries so much, why don't they go live there? So they're working with the government because he just said so, as their asset. I don't know. And Susan and Hassan Piker, the co-founder of Pink, Susan Benjamin, are among those caught in a federal inquiry into whether activists who traveled to Cuba in March violated U.S. sanctions laws through financing, coordination, or delivery of goods to Cuba, including potential contacts with Cuban government personnel or entities on the island. If you don't know about Code Pink, Code Pink was founded by Neville Roy Singham's wife, Jody Evans. And Singham is a tech billionaire with very well-documented and known ties to the CCP. He pours hundreds of millions of dollars into U.S. profits via dark money channels, shell companies, and donor-advised funds. Code Pink organizes rallies like the No Kings protest and pro-Palestine protest and anti-Trump protest and pro-migration and open borders. They even organized a China is not our enemy campaign. I'm fairly certain China would beg to differ. Seriously, if it were up to these people, we'd fall to communism and totally lose our freedoms. Basically, all the chaos that happens in our country and whatever the left's cause of the week is a highly organized protest, and people are usually paid to protest through organizations like Code Pink. And they always have ties to our enemies. They're always funded by our enemies. Welcome to the Democratic Party. It's a terrifying state of affairs. Okay, listen to what Hassan Piker has to say about Code Pink's involvement, because again, he's always telling on himself.
I think that ultimately the target is probably Singham and his operation, from PSL to Answer Coalition to Code Pink, like anything that he has ever financed. And it's not new. It's been around for a while, but it's obviously it's held through regardless, because like it's ridiculous, right? It's like totally fucking ridiculous to try and you know, to try and stop like the political advocacy of an American citizen, right? Roy Singham is an American citizen. He lives in China now, and he's a centimillionaire. I think he like has almost $1 billion. Not sure how much money he has now, but like he's been a funding vehicle for a lot of like political movements in the country, like a lot of activism. And they hate that shit. Like the American government hates that shit. So they're trying to jam him up. You know, they're trying to hit him on anything and everything they possibly can.
There's so many layers of hypocrisy here. I thought they hated the rich. The ideological inconsistencies of Marxism and communism never ceases to amaze me. Ever. They hate the rich, but it's okay if they're on their side and funding their protests. They think it's BS that America is involving themselves in, you know, Chinese funded propaganda against the United States, that they're doing an investigation into it. But then the people of the governments that they're aligning themselves with, they can't protest. They'll kill them. They'll kill them in Cuba if you're protesting and if you're out. And then why is a billionaire in China funding activism in the United States? Why is a billionaire in China funding activism that aligns with CCP messaging? Why is he involved in creating political operations here? Because it's a foreign op. Enemy-funded propaganda that people fall for because they follow idiots like Hassan Piker. And before we move on, I have to play this video from Olivia DiNucci, who is Code Pink's Washington, D.C. coordinator.
Yesterday, Fox News came out with a DOJ report saying that individuals and organizations are going to be investigated for our Cuba solidarity work. They listed me individually, saying that I am a girl next door basketball player who's part of this. I think it goes to show that we are everyday people who are in solidarity with everyday people. in Cuba, Palestine, Iran, Congo, and in our own neighborhoods here. We raise money for life-affirming aid like medical supplies, food, because these blockades and these bombs with our tax dollars we are creating crisis, and we as individuals are taking a responsibility to combat that. They are trying to scare us, and in fact, it's only activated us to take more direct action, to raise more funds that go to health products and to food, and to be in deeper solidarity with people across the world. We are everyday people, healthcare workers, teachers, artists, parents, students, waitresses, shopkeepers. There is room for everyone in this movement. Join us. Do not be afraid, but continue to act in radical love as we go after these devastating policies.
Radical love. Radical love. Really? Why is she wearing a keffiyeh? You know who wears keffiyehs? Terrorists. Not the everyday people of Iran that are suffering under the regime, not the women of Gaza who have been raped by Hamas, not the everyday people of Cuba. No, the people oppressing are the ones wearing the keffiyeh. Iran's proxy groups, they're wearing the keffiyeh. Hamas in Palestine wearing the keffiyeh. Hezbollah in Cuba, the IRGC in Iran, they're all wearing the stupid keffiyeh. So why are the free women in the West aligning themselves with the terrorists who are oppressing women? The everyday women in these countries that she's talking about would do anything for the freedom that she was born into and doesn't appreciate. They support President Trump and our military action in their countries. They hate their governments because they are not free under them. This is the dumbest thing that liberal women do. It's a slap in the face to the women suffering around the world. It's a slap in the face to the men and women who have died for our rights and our freedoms. And honestly, it's a slap in the face to the women's suffrage movement. And it's literally retarded. It's retarded. It's so dumb. Suicidal empathy. Gad sad. Suicidal empathy. We are seeing a lot of suicidal empathy in the West. We're going to move on to our next story, which is a tragic case of suicidal empathy in the UK. Ever since I heard it, I have not been able to stop thinking about it. It is so upsetting and telling of the state of the UK. If you followed me on other platforms, you might know why I'm so passionate about the UK and all of Europe, really. But I lived there for 3 years in my late 20s. My experience living there was actually the reason I started posting and making videos in the first place. I saw firsthand how quickly a country can change and really fall due to bad policy decisions. When I first moved to London, I thought I was never going to leave. I love England. I love the history, the British culture. I'd do anything for a Sunday roast. I love the countryside. And I can't return because I'd likely be arrested as I am viewed a terrorist. Me, a terrorist. Mom and Dad, did you ever think your daughter, me, would be considered a terrorist? Why? Because I hold the belief that Western culture is under threat from mass migration and lack of integration from people from Muslim majority countries. Official UK counterterrorism materials define extreme right-wing terrorism as including 3 broad sub-ideologies. We have cultural nationalism, which is the belief that Western culture is under threat from mass migration into Europe and from lack of integration by certain ethnic and cultural groups. This often focuses on issues like the burqa, Sharia law, or the Islamification of Europe. So basically, if you have eyes and see what is happening, and you talk about it, you are an extreme right-wing terrorist. So that's how I landed there. We have white nationalism, demographic and racial replacement fears. Again, if you just look at the data and look at statistics and acknowledge that people from Muslim majority countries are coming into the country and having 5, 6, 7, 8 children per family compared to the Brits who are having 1 to 2 children per family. And you start doing the math, what that's going to look like in a generation, 2 generations, 3 generations from now. If you talk about that, extreme right-wing terrorist. Okay. We also have white supremacy, because everything is white supremacy. You're not allowed to be proud of the color of your skin. So this is what the UK government is trying to tell you is a threat. And as recently, by the way, as 2025, which was when this refresher course was sent out and they made teachers and public officials go through training about this. Keep all this in mind when I tell you this story that has genuinely been with me every day since I've heard it. And I just think it's so important to talk about and bring light to, because it's the reality of what's happening. Take it from someone who lived there. It's not an easy one. December 3rd, 2025, Henry Nowak, an 18-year-old British student at the University of Southampton, was fatally stabbed on his walk home after a night out with friends by a man named Vikram Singh Digwa, who's a 23-year-old who was carrying a large kirpan, which is a Sikh ceremonial knife. He stabbed Henry with it 4 times. Henry tried to escape by climbing over a bin and a fence, leaving a blood trail indicating he was already seriously wounded. Digwa allegedly pursued him aggressively. The neighbors called the police. When the police arrived, Digwa accused Henry of racism. So the police handcuffed Henry, despite the fact that Henry was bleeding out and telling police he had been stabbed and he was dying. They handcuffed him anyway because Vikram Digwa said he was racist. So first aid was delayed to Henry until he collapsed. Henry was pronounced dead on the scene. He was correct after telling the police that he was dying and bleeding out. The police prioritized the racism allegations over Henry's life. The officers have not been publicly named or confirmed as under investigation. They're protecting them. They also found Henry's phone in Vikram's pocket after the stabbing, so he stole his phone while he was bleeding out and dying. Henry allegedly had some of the encounter filmed because he was Snapchatting to his friends. So I'm going to assume that's why Vikram wanted to steal it. They have not released the body cam or the video on Henry's phone to the public. Currently, as of May 2026, the murder trial is ongoing at Southampton Crown Court. Digwa denies murder and possessing a knife in public. And his mother, because it's a family affair, we see that a lot, denies assisting an offender because she is also being charged assisting an offender by allegedly removing the knife from the scene and taking it home. The case includes evidence from Henry's phone footage, witness statements, blood trails, and body cam. Why they're not releasing the footage to the public? They tend to do that a lot in the UK because they're scared that it's going to cause an uproar and the Islamic community is going to be unfairly treated, because that's what matters more to the Labour government, even though he's Sikh. But Vikram Digwa's defense claimed that he acted in the heat of the moment to protect himself after Henry Nowak allegedly initiated and escalated a violent confrontation, which obviously is complete bullshit, complete BS. Digwa told Southampton Crown Court that he was walking to get food when Henry, who appeared drunk and was stumbling, barged into him on the pavement. Digwa said he apologized and tried to de-escalate the situation by stabbing him with his ceremonial blade, his ceremonial knife 4 times. Henry, he said that Henry made threatening comments and used a racial slur. Remember, he said that he was drunk and stumbling. Well, inconvenient fact for Daye, Henry's blood alcohol content was low. It was below the UK drink drive limit. So he could have legally driven a car. So I think Vikram Daye is a big fat liar, theft, and murderer. I don't want to show a photo, the only photo that I could find of Vikram Daye, because I cannot confirm it's him. Again, the UK is protecting him and his identity. There's a photo that's circulating that you can look up that shows a young man carrying the ceremonial knife that he says he, wasn't carrying in public. And he's wearing a turban, which we know that he wears, but again, can't confirm it's him. It blows my mind that his identity gets to remain protected after he took a young boy's life. Henry was a first-year student at the University of Southampton studying accountancy and finance. He had excelled in his A-levels and was enthusiastically embracing university life. He joined 2 football teams. He made new friends. He worked part-time at a local Morrison's supermarket. His family described him as a kind, intelligent, and talented son who was loved by all those who knew him, an all-around top lad. And he doesn't have a future. And his family was robbed of years with him. And it's really due to policy decisions. It's so sad. Vikram Daye was born and raised in Essex. Obviously, his parents or grandparents migrated to the UK. It hasn't been released to the public, which further highlights the migration crisis they're in, because we're seeing 2nd and 3rd generation migrants refusing to assimilate or embrace British culture. We saw it with the Pakistani rape gangs. A lot of those men were actually born in the UK. They just stayed in their Pakistani communities and got radicalized in their Pakistani communities because that's now part of the culture in the UK because they imported these people. And if the British don't like that, they're called racist or even labeled a terrorist. A lot of credit for the attention to this case goes to Elon Musk. He has offered to fund a wrongful death lawsuit against law enforcement. So kind. Absolutely the right thing to do. And then in response to some truly terrible reporting by the BBC, who headlined their article about this case, murder accused feared Sikh blade attack, jury told. Doesn't even make sense. It's blaming somehow Henry. It makes me so mad, that headline. I mean, we really don't hate the mainstream media enough if they're still in business to publish such idiotic headlines. Elon Musk responded and said Nowak tried to escape and was stabbed to death, and said the court needs to show the police body cams and the video on Nowak's phone. That phone was stolen by the murderer for a reason. Of course it was. And then in response to this post, saying British politicians who took a knee for George Floyd have not even made a post about Henry Nowak, which is insane. Insane. They're taking a knee for George Floyd in the United States, but they won't even acknowledge the murder of 18-year-old Henry Nowak. He reposted it with the quote saying, "Why have they said nothing about the murder aided by the police of this innocent English boy?" And it's a very good question. Performative politics. Kneel for a drug addict who died of an overdose, which is in the autopsy. And George Floyd also had a history, not a good criminal history. He was a criminal. But let's make him the hero because it makes police officers look bad. Yes, let's demonize the police officers. That'll end well. And these useful idiots fall for these scams every freaking time. And guess who all these protests and all this is funded by? Code Pink. Organizations like Code Pink. But these politicians turn away from Henry because it's a result of the actual policies that they implement. They turn away from rape victims because it's a result of leftist policies that they implement. I cannot understand how people don't see what's happening to the West so clearly. We are being invaded by cultures that will never be compatible with us. They don't share our values. Just look at their countries. They're coming from places that abuse women and allow for child marriage. They're having more kids at higher rates. They will replace us if we let them. And right now, through leftist ideologies, we are letting them. It is infuriating. I'm sorry. That one really, it works me up because I don't know how we got here. I mean, I know how we got here, but it's just so frustrating. Moving on to our next story, where the Democrats are just continually embracing communism. They're not the Democratic Party anymore. They're communists. Mamdani released the block by block blueprint to build 200,000 new affordable rent stabilized homes and preserve or stabilize another 200,000 over the next decade. The plan triples publicly subsidized housing production through zoning reforms like transit-oriented development. Billions in funding, including $5.6 billion for NYCHA repairs and stronger tenant protections against negligent landlords via inspections and ownership transfers to nonprofits. All that sounds nice. In theory, it's not going to work. Mamdani says his admin will transfer ownership from bad landlords to nonprofits.
When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers. And for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards.
Who's responsible stewards?
Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenants themselves.
So that's communism. Seizing private property. Thank God he can't do this. And thank God it's illegal in the United States of America to seize private property because we have individual property rights. Thankfully. But we have some Democrats saying it's crazy to see an elected official just deliver on every campaign promise. Except what he's talking about, again, it's illegal. It's illegal in the United States of America because he's taking away individual property rights. We don't want collectivism. We want individual rights because if we had collective rights, we wouldn't have freedom. Why is that so hard for people to understand? But this has been the plan all along. Make properties unprofitable with rent freezes and rent stabilization expansions and stricter regulations, which devalues property and leads to abandonment. It's crushing the owners so that the city can swoop in and buy it cheap. They attack and blame the owners for not fixing problems because they took away the incentive to do so. And then they seize property, which is communism. And that has never worked. Just ask the people of Cuba or Venezuela, or honestly, even Hassan Piker, who's talking about how much the people are suffering under communism, in communism, but blaming the United States of America for it. That's insane. The Democrats are making false promises that they can't keep, that don't work in theory. Thank God we live in America with law and order and checks and balances and our Constitution and our federal government. Because the government has never done anything better than the private sector. We want competition. We want markets to decide. That allows for freedom. If a government can feed you, a government can starve you. And we don't want the government to control our lives like this. It's giving them too much power. They're taking power from we the people and concentrating it to the elite. That is bad news bears, guys. These people don't understand practice. They think in these big ideas and feel good, and it's all theory, operating under the idiotic assumption that everyone in power will be good. Spoiler alert, people get power hungry. People are selfish. We don't want the fate of our freedoms to be up to a select few people, because that would be really dumb of us. Let's not be dumb, please. I happen to really like my freedoms. God bless America. We will see you tomorrow.